The crater Lake Volcano in Oregon. Calderas like this exist in a multitude of locations around the planet, yet few people think of these impressive features as existing within California.
Something powerful is waking beneath America's west coast. From California's scorched deserts to Alaska's frozen shores, the Earth is shifting and breathing with new heat. Satellite readings reveal magma rising across 21 volcanoes at the same time, creating a chain reaction that scientists once believed could never happen. The ground is swelling, gases are leaking, and pressure is building beneath mountains that have slept for centuries. Experts warn that the next eruption will not be a single blast, but a rolling wave of fire sweeping north through the Pacific frontier. It has already begun, and the question now is how far it will go. Long Valley Caldera, California. The Long Valley Caldera does not look like a volcano. It is a quiet valley near Mammoth Lakes, covered in forest and snow. Yet beneath its calm surface lies one of the largest magma chambers in North America. In 2024, satellites detected the ground rising almost 4 inches in a single year, and clusters of earthquakes followed in precise alignment, the same pattern that has preceded volcanic unrest elsewhere. Carbon dioxide levels in the soil increased, and hot springs turned cloudy with minerals from depth. Skiers and tourists above it had no idea they were crossing a living supervolcano. Scientists worry not because of what they see, but because of what they cannot. A chamber big enough to feed eruptions that could darken skies for weeks. If this quiet valley begins to tremble again, how far would the ash drift this time? Lassen Peak, California. Lassen Peak was America's first great warning. In 1915, its eruption leveled forests and poured boiling mud across miles of wilderness. More than a century later, it still exhales faint clouds of sulfur, and in 2023, those emissions rose sharply. Mud pots boiled faster, fumaroles widened, and the temperature of the ground itself climbed. Beneath the peak, magma is slowly moving upward through fractured rock, part of a larger network that connects the volcanoes of Northern California. Instruments now record harmonic tremors, the kind that only molten material can create. The mountain has erupted many times since the Ice Age, and each eruption came after years of quiet, just like this. Scientists at the US Geological Survey say the plumbing system is active again. Could Lassen's awakening be the spark that travels northward through the range? Mount Shasta, California. Mount Shasta dominates the horizon, towering nearly 14,000 feet above the plains. To climbers, it is a symbol of strength. To geologists, it is a puzzle of pressure and time. In 2024, Deep Earth radar revealed new branches of molten rock spreading from its base, connecting to smaller reservoirs miles below. These conduits form a network that scientists compare to arteries, carrying magma north toward Oregon. Quakes ripple through the same channels every few weeks, and gas readings show fresh sulfur rising near the summit. Shasta's slopes are lined with towns, highways, and power grids, all within reach of potential flows. Every reading suggests the volcano is reloading. When pressure moves through this system, it does not stop at borders. If Shasta starts to breathe faster, will Oregon feel its pulse next? Mount McLaughlin, Oregon. Snow hides Mount McLaughlin's story, but thermal cameras do not. In 2023, scientists noticed that parts of its summit stayed warm through the coldest nights. The heat pattern did not fade with winter, which means it came from inside. For a volcano considered extinct, that was unexpected. Low-frequency earthquakes soon followed. Small but rhythmic, the steady heartbeat of magma rising through ancient cracks. McLaughlin's slopes are thick with forest and unmonitored valleys. If an eruption began here, warning time would be short. Oregon's southern volcanoes often wake in pairs, one stirring before another joins. Could McLaughlin's subtle glow be the first signal that Mazama's system farther north is starting to wake as well? Crater Lake / Mount Mazama, Oregon. Beneath the still blue water of Crater Lake lies the shattered caldera of Mount Mazama, the volcano that destroyed itself 7,000 years ago. Scientists long believed it was finished. Then, sonar scans in 2023 revealed two rising domes of hardened lava pushing up from the lake floor. Underwater sensors detected tremors at regular intervals, and temperature readings showed heat climbing through the sediment. These are not the signals of a dead volcano. They are the early movements of rebuilding. If those domes continue to rise, they could eventually break the surface and form new vents. Crater Lake's tranquil beauty could turn violent again. What would happen if Oregon's most famous lake suddenly began to boil from below? The Three Sisters, Oregon. In central Oregon, three peaks, North, Middle, and South Sister, stand like sentinels over the forest. For 2 decades, satellites have watched the ground beneath them swell upward. In 2024, more than 200 small earthquakes shook the region in just 6 weeks, each one shallow, each one in the same cluster. Scientists traced the motion to South Sister, where magma appears to be pooling less than 4 miles down. The entire region is bulging like a slow-rising dome, and instruments record new gas venting along its flanks. The city of Bend, only 30 miles away, sits directly on this swelling ground. The pattern is unmistakable. Pressure is climbing, and the question now is not whether South Sister will erupt again, but when. Could the next movement crack the crust that has held for 2,000 years? Mount Jefferson, Oregon. Mount Jefferson stands alone, remote and largely unmonitored. Yet in 2024, scientists hiking through its forests noticed hot air seeping from the ground miles from the summit. Gas samples showed hydrogen sulfide and radon, clear indicators of volcanic activity. The readings were hotter than any geothermal vent nearby. Jefferson's magma chamber may be recharging quietly beneath heavy layers of rock. With few sensors in place, there would be no official warning if it erupted. Researchers call it one of the Pacific Northwest's dark volcanoes, active but hidden from view. Every year, its slopes grow more fractured under the weight of snow and time. If Jefferson breaks open again, its first eruption could be its largest. How long can a dark volcano stay unseen before it lights the sky? Mount Hood, Oregon. East of Portland rises Mount Hood, graceful and constant to the millions who see it each day. Beneath that calm surface, new energy is building. In 2023, volcanic gas readings doubled, showing magma inching upward. Thermal scans revealed widening hot zones under the glaciers, and geologists fear that a sudden release of heat could melt enough ice to unleash catastrophic floods of mud and debris. The US Geological Survey raised its internal alert to Advisor, a quiet signal that the mountain is restless. If Hood erupts, the danger will not come only from lava, but from the torrents that follow, reaching populated valleys within minutes. Residents call the mountain timeless, yet time is exactly what is running out. Will Portland's horizon change before anyone realizes what is happening? Mount Adams, Washington. Mount Adams sits broad and quiet east of Rainier, its silence deceptive. In 2025, satellites detected clusters of tiny quakes forming a perfect ring around its summit, a pattern geologists recognize as magma pressing upward. Thermal data confirmed a rise in surface temperature along the southern flank. Adams has been dormant for centuries, but scientists now suspect it is part of a larger reactivation stretching through the Cascades. The magma chambers of Adams, St. Helens, and Rainier are connected at depth, shifting pressure between them like gears in motion. Each tremor from Adams may be sending a signal to its neighbors. Could a single pulse here set off a chain of awakening across the entire range? Medicine Lake Volcano, California. East of Shasta, hidden beneath dense forest, spreads Medicine Lake Volcano, a wide shield that deceives even experts. Unlike the tall cones of its neighbors, Medicine Lake covers hundreds of square miles. its eruptions flowing silently across the landscape. Seismic imaging in 2023 exposed a massive zone of partially molten rock beneath it. The temperature of nearby vents has risen by several degrees, and new gas leaks mark the surface. What makes it dangerous is not sudden explosion, but scale. When it erupts, the lava can travel for miles, cutting roads and reshaping valleys. California focuses on earthquakes, but this slow-moving system may be its real threat. Deep below, the pressure is climbing, and geologists wonder whether Medicine Lake's quiet, spreading heat is the first whisper of a much louder chain reaction. Mount St. Helens, Washington. The scars of 1980 still mark Mount St. Helens, but beneath the crater, a new dome is rising. In 2024, radar imaging revealed that the crater floor is lifting steadily, a sign that magma is refilling the system. Low-frequency quakes echo deep below, and vents at the rim grow hotter with every passing month. The volcano is inflating, breathing slowly, preparing again. Scientists who study it describe the same uneasy rhythm that came before its last eruption. The mountain appears calm, but calm is what it looked like the morning it exploded. If St. Helens repeats its history, the next eruption could be stronger than the last. The mountain inhaled once before. When will it exhale again? Mount Rainier, Washington. Towering above Seattle, Mount Rainier commands respect and fear in equal measure. Every glacier on its slopes hides instability. Even a minor vent could melt enough ice to send lahars rushing through the valleys below, sweeping away towns in their path. In late 2024, instruments beneath the mountain recorded deep rhythmic tremors and spikes in gas emissions. Infrared scans showed heat lines crawling along the ridges that never cooled after sunset. Rainier hasn't erupted in centuries, but the data mirrors the early stages of 1980's St. Helens pattern. The difference now is scale. Millions live within reach of its floods and ash. Scientists warn that when Rainier finally wakes, evacuation maps may not move people fast enough. Can a modern city truly prepare for a disaster that begins miles beneath the ice? Glacier Peak, Washington. Far from highways and crowds, Glacier Peak hides in the heart of Washington's wilderness. Few people ever see it, and fewer realize it may be the state's most explosive volcano. In 2023, radar detected hollow spaces melting into the glacier from below, warmed by heat that had no surface source. Sensors picked up low, steady quakes beneath the ice. Glacier Peak's last eruption, 13,000 years ago, coated much of the continent in ash, and the same patterns are forming again. Because it is so remote, the first sign the public will see could be the cloud itself. Scientists say Glacier Peak is restless, its magma stirring after millennia of silence. If it erupts, the ash could reach Seattle before the warning does. How do you monitor what you can barely reach? Mount Baker, Washington. Mount Baker rises like a perfect crown over the northern Cascades, but appearances deceive. In 2024, seismic arrays recorded repetitive tremors deep within the mountain, steady and rhythmic, a signature of magma migration. Soon, sulfur dioxide and steam began rising from Sherman Crater, painting the sky in pale white plumes. Baker carries an added danger: its glaciers. A surge of heat can melt them in hours, releasing walls of mud and rock that roar down the valleys toward nearby communities. Locals see only snow. Instruments see pressure. The mountain's calm is not safety, it is buildup. The last time Baker showed this pattern was decades before an eruption. If the cycle repeats, how long until the crown cracks? Mount Garibaldi, British Columbia. Above the busy towns of Whistler and Squamish stands Mount Garibaldi, a mountain built on ice. In 2024, drones detected glowing thermal zones beneath its snowfields, and gas sensors confirmed elevated sulfur emissions. The heat wasn't fading, it was spreading. Garibaldi's slopes are weakened by ancient glaciers that could collapse if magma breaks through. Such a collapse would unleash floods racing toward populated valleys within minutes. For now, tourists climb its trails unaware of the pressure below. Scientists monitoring the data say the signals are growing stronger each month. When ice and fire share the same mountain, one must eventually give way. Which will it be first, the glacier or the ground? Before we continue, tap subscribe and stay alert. The next tremor could strike anywhere, and you'll want to know the moment the chain moves again. Mount Meager, British Columbia. Deep in the wilderness, Mount Meager hides the memory of Canada's largest eruption in 10,000 years. It hasn't erupted in over 2 millennia, yet earthquakes now ripple through its valleys, and the smell of sulfur lingers on still air. Satellite radar shows parts of the glacier melting from the bottom up, a sure sign of heat below. New vents have appeared where none existed before, releasing gases from the Earth's interior. Meager's slopes are unstable and fractured, weighed down by ice. A collapse here could send a wall of rock and mud through the valley faster than anyone could run. Scientists call it the sleeping beast of British Columbia, but a beast that shifts in its sleep is never truly at rest. Mount Edgecumbe, Alaska. Off the coast of Sitka rises Mount Edgecumbe, long thought extinct until satellites in 2022 detected hundreds of tiny quakes beneath it. Later scans revealed a vast magma pocket expanding 2 miles wide. Gas sensors soon picked up the smell of sulfur across nearby islands. The Alaska Volcano Observatory confirmed the system is refilling. Edgecumbe hasn't erupted in 4,000 years, but that silence means little. The crust above its magma pool is thin, and new heat is climbing through it each year. Fishermen near Sitka have reported steam drifting from the shoreline after storms. If this pressure continues, the ocean itself may be the first to feel its fury. How long can an island volcano hide before the sea begins to boil? Mount Redoubt, Alaska. Mount Redoubt is a study in unpredictability. In 2009, it erupted with almost no warning, sending ash 60,000 feet into the sky and grounding flights across the state. 15 years later, scientists have found something even stranger, a pair of magma conduits rising side by side beneath the mountain. Each feeds a different part of its molten chamber. If they merge under pressure, the result could be explosive. Seismic readings show the volcano's southern flank bulging outward, the slow motion of rock bending under stress. Low-frequency tremors now rumble daily. Redoubt moves quickly once it starts, and history shows it gives little notice. Alaska remembers the ash that darkened its skies before. Could that darkness return within our lifetime? Mount Spurr, Alaska. 70 miles west of Anchorage stands Mount Spurr, quiet for 3 decades but no longer resting. In late 2023, satellites picked up an unexpected hotspot at its summit. At first, researchers suspected an error. Then came the second reading, identical and stronger. Cracks opened across the snowfield, releasing thin plumes of steam. Sulfur levels in the air spiked, and tilt meters recorded the ground rising a centimeter each month. Spurr's magma chamber, sealed since 1992, is refilling. Anchorage lies directly downwind, its population unaware that the same volcano that once blackened its sky is warming again. Scientists compare Spurr to a sealed bottle building pressure, quiet, contained, but only until it is shaken enough to burst. How much longer before Anchorage looks up and sees grey instead of blue? Augustine Volcano, Alaska. Rising from Cook Inlet like a fortress of ice and ash, Augustine Volcano has erupted many times, most recently in 2006 when it buried Anchorage in darkness. Nearly 20 years later, it is stirring again. In 2025, seismic instruments detected deep harmonic tremors, vibrations made only by magma moving upward. Soon after, the smell of rotten eggs drifted across the inlet as hydrogen sulfide escaped from fresh fissures. thermal cameras revealed a constant glow beneath the summit snow. Scientists at the Alaska Volcano Observatory raised the alert, noting the same sequence that preceded its last eruption. The island's slopes are swelling as pressure builds. When Augustine releases it, the sound will echo across the sea. How long before Alaska's sky turns grey once more? The chain awakens. From California's valleys to Alaska's frozen coastlines, the same story repeats: ground swelling, gases venting, tremors pulsing in rhythm. 21 volcanoes now show signs of renewal, each linked by deep corridors of molten rock. Scientists call it the Cascade chain reaction, a theory suggesting that movement in one volcano can trigger stress in another hundreds of miles away. The evidence grows stronger each year. If one peak erupts, it could set off a cascade of fire stretching the entire length of North America's western edge. The Earth has always spoken through tremors and heat, but lately its voice is louder, its rhythm faster. When the chain ignites, it will not be a single explosion, but a sequence. The countdown is already running. When it reaches zero, where will you be? Watching, fleeing, or standing beneath a sky that glows red? Conclusion: the West Coast looks calm from above, its mountains standing proud against the sky, but beneath the surface, the story is changing. Each year, the tremors grow stronger, the gases thicken, and the magma climbs closer to the crust. The pattern no longer fits the quiet cycles of nature. It feels connected, synchronized, almost deliberate. Scientists from the USGS and NASA can trace the heat signatures moving in a slow rhythm up the coastline, linking volcanoes that have been silent for centuries. The Earth is not resting, it is preparing. If even one of these peaks releases its pressure, the rest may answer in kind. From California's ancient calderas to Alaska's frozen towers, the chain is reawakening, and once it begins, there will be no pause, only fire, ash, and silence where the forests once stood. If you want to see how close we are to the next eruption, stay with us. Subscribe and turn on notifications for new NASA and USGS findings as they break. Comment which volcano you believe will erupt first, and remember, the ground beneath your feet is alive and waiting.